Let's talk with Scott Zari, Healthcare Director, S&P Global Ratings. I'll start with, is the demand growing, slowing, or about the same for all of these drugs that they're obesity drugs, but people are using them just to lose weight and feel better? Tell me about the demand cycle.
Thank you for having me on. I think every time I look at the forecast for this company, the demand for Lilly, that is, the demand continues to grow for GLP-1s across the board. So I think when you look at it, we're still in the very early stages here where we just got to a point where manufacturing has kept up with demand. And, this could clearly grow to be over $100 billion market in the long term.
So when I think about this, so if the demand is still growing here, names like Eli Lilly, Novo, Pfizer, we'll get to the big deal. Do they all have growth going forward in this still? Is there room for all of them?
Yeah, obviously it's such a large market. It's going to be hard for any one manufacturer to service the entire market. We view it really as a two-horse race. Novo had the first mover advantage, but now Lilly is jumping out and taking the lead. And that's really just because they had, the most effective product. So that being said, we expect more people to jump into this market, and there's enough demand overall that there's probably room for multiple players.
Are we finding that Zepbound, because you said Lilly has the most effective product, how is Zepbound the most effective product, let's say, over Ozempic and Wegovy?
So Zepbound has proven in a head-to-head study that you simply lose more weight. It has been the most effective in terms of average weight loss across the board. So that's total pounds lost, and it's also the amount of people that stay on the drug. A lot of people discontinue these drugs because of very high side effects. So far, it's been hard for anyone to knock them off in terms of most weight loss with fewest side effects. But clearly there are a lot of drugs in development. But right now, we actually expect the drug in development that has the highest likelihood of being more effective than Zepbound is actually Lilly's own retatrutide, which is currently in stage 3.
And look, we know Pfizer was not doing well with its own in-house GLP-1, but has since made this acquisition with Metsera. The stock was up over 60% today. What did you think? Do you think this is a good move here for Pfizer?
Ultimately, I think it's the only move given that their GLP-1 product that they were developing didn't pan out. But I think that also shows that all of these competitors are in very early stages. And so Metsera has a lot of products, but they're really only in stage 2. So we don't really know yet how effective they're going to be. There's a lot of potential in that, there's less frequent dosing. There could potentially be fewer side effects, but it's still very early stages. And ultimately what we've seen is a lot of these competitors that they've gotten closer and closer to when they would go for approval, the stats haven't so far proven to be better than Zepbound.
Look, everybody's waiting for more pills. I know that they're working on a Wegovy pill, right? Will that be a game changer for the industry? It's certainly coming. We see some failed attempts. Pfizer, for example, had a hard time with theirs. But we know the pill's coming, right? Eventually, because they're working so hard on it. Will that be a game changer and more people will take it?
So we view the pill as more of an expansion of the GLP-1 menu than as an actual direct competitor to the injectable version. The benefits of the pill would be for people that don't like needles, or for markets where they don't quite have the manufacturing capacity to wrap up the injectables. They can get a pill into the market quicker. And ultimately, when you look at the pills, the dynamic is actually flipped. Novo's pill appears to be more effective than Lilly's, although there might be some manufacturing challenges, and you might also have to have dietary restrictions if you're on Novo's pills. So it's still very early on the pills as well. We expect both to come to market. There will probably be more pills down the line, but still we think the vast majority of the GLP-1 sales will continue to be the injectables.
The price point is still above $1,000. And unless you have great insurance or a doctor who's helping you to write these prescriptions, it's not so easy to get these, I think. especially if you're going to be paying cash. Does that change?
I think over the long term, as more people come into the market, if you can't compete, if you can't prove that you have the most effective drug, another way to compete would be on price. And I think we've seen that recently. Novo was able to negotiate with CVS to offer them a lower price in exchange for CVS dropping Zepbound from their standard formulary. As more and more products enter the market and there's more and more options, we expect that to be something of a downward pressure on prices across the industry. However, in the near term, it's probably still going to remain pretty high.
And when we think about the newcomers taking market share, what kind of battle do you expect? Because what you're doing at S&P Global is also looking at the balance sheets. You're rating these companies not with price targets for the stock, but for the debt and the liabilities. That's what you're really looking at. Which ones are best positioned when you look at the balance sheet, Scott?
So there's really only two companies out there that have already built the manufacturing capacity to manufacture GLP-1 injectables at scale, and that's Lilly and Novo. Their first mover advantage has provided them with a huge moat and a tremendous amount of cash flow that they're going to benefit from over the next few years. No one else is really close from entering the market and taking away their share yet. And we think anyone that is considering entering the market, they're going to have to think about how much they spend on manufacturing to try and steal away that share. If you look at Lilly alone, they've announced over $50 billion of US manufacturing since 2020, and that number is probably going to continue to grow. So for another entrant to come in and build up this manufacturing, they'd have to be pretty sure that they have a better product and that they can steal share.
Scott Zari, great to see you. Really, it's wonderful to have you on. When we think about that, this was the year for healthcare, pharma. That's what they were saying, but that group didn't necessarily take off in the first half of the year. The hurdles or headwinds, are they now tailwinds when you think about the macro picture for this group?
I think when you think about Novo and Lilly, and we upgraded Novo earlier this year, we have Lilly on positive outlook. What they're experiencing is relatively unique for big pharma. The GLP-1 tailwinds are very specific to these two companies right now. When you look across the entire pharma ecosystem and you start thinking about tariffs and potential MFN legislation, Medicare price negotiation, there's still a lot of risks that are headwinds for the entire group, but these two continue to have tailwinds.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Scott Zari, Healthcare Director, S&P Global Ratings. Thank you so much for being with us.